Welcome to Commander Central, episode 160, and today we're going to take a look at listener Ken Sisson's Thalia Garden of Thraben 2 CMC deck. I'm Dana.
I'm Max.
And I'm Chris.
And once again, we're joined by special guest Dan Krause.
Through the power of time travel, I'm still here.
You are still, how amazing.
Time travel again.
I showed him where we keep the time machine.
You know, if the government ever shows up at your house, you know why.
Because of the time machine.
I have a portal done. Don't
Because
worry.
it's because of the time machine and nothing else. That's the only reason they would be here. So how's everybody doing this week?
We're doing pretty well. It's still GP Max's house.
It is. We're enjoying ourselves.
We're about to go play some games after this.
Yeah.
I do have to give a shout out to Max because it was his birthday yesterday. Correct?
Oh, yeah.
No, it's my birthday tomorrow.
Coming up.
Is it tomorrow? That
Saturday.
was exactly a week before
That
mine.
stupid time machine. You
Yeah.
gotta get it calibrated
The 16th.
Oh.
Because we're going next.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Okay, yep. It's tomorrow.
Because we're going
Early
next
happy
weekend for
Nick Kroll.
Nick Kroll in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
By the time this airs, that'll be 3 days after that, I
Yes.
guess. 3 days from now, from this show airing.
Time travel.
Exactly.
Math.
Either way, happy birthday, Max.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
How old are you now? 75?
Sure. I'll take it. If I'm 75 when I look this good,
I don't. Are you 31?
I will be 31.
31. All
Yes.
right. All right. Man, I nailed that.
You did.
I'm awesome. I'm something.
You don't get the day off.
I do. Did anybody go see The Mandalorian yet?
I have not watched it yet.
Chris, did you watch it or Dan?
Not yet.
I signed up. I got my wife all settled in with Disney Plus, and she promised to save it for me when I got
Okay.
home.
All right. We're gonna wait till there's a few episodes out before I sign up, just so I can.
I make those promises to my wife too, but I never keep
do?
them.
Not gonna-
She's actually surprised when we watch it together.
Yep, I do this. I used to do the same
I
thing.
actually keep my promises.
I'm a Verizon customer, so I get my first year of Disney Plus on them.
Oh,
So
nice.
I'm really enjoying that.
I never knew that until Max told me today, and I'm like, I know what I'm doing when I go home.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, cool. I'm gonna wait, but I'm definitely gonna have to watch it. Max has already fired up the Rick and Morty.
Yep,
Episode.
I've watched the first episode of season 4 of that.
Either of you two get into that yet?
Not yet.
As soon as I get home.
All right. My wife likes Rick and Morty too, but the same thing. We want to wait till we have at least some weekend where we can just binge and watch like 3 or 4 in a row.
Did
Yeah,
they
I
find
mean,
this Szechuan sauce yet?
not yet.
Okay.
I mean, they're going to do like 5 and then break, so maybe
Right.
just wait for that over
Yeah.
like Christmas or something.
Because they're doing like another 50 episodes or something, aren't they?
Yeah,
All
like
told?
80 or something.
Yeah.
I
Good.
think the contract they signed up for was a minimum of 4 seasons with 70 episodes or something.
Yeah, 70 total episodes.
And then Pokemon Sword and Shield is out.
I might have picked those up today.
Did you?
I did too.
Stopped on the way here.
Yep, because I pre-ordered them
My kid hasn't decided.
quite a long time
My
ago.
kid has not decided which one he wants yet, so he's trying to decide. Just
Wait,
buy
just-
both, I guess, is the secret.
You could.
like Chris did.
Well, I did because my son's going to play one, I'm going to play the other one.
Oh,
Then
nice.
when we're bored, we'll flip-flop.
Nice. Okay, that's a good idea.
That is cool.
I'm trying to think of any other like cool media stuff that's happened in the last few days. I watched just on a whim on Hulu the other night. I watched Anna and the Apocalypse, which is a
That was the best message ever.
zombie horror movie musical that takes place at Christmas.
What?
What?
So it's a musical, kids singing. It takes place at Christmas time, and it's a zombie horror movie.
Well, if you like that,
It was excellent.
and Netflix, check out a series called Daybreak.
I saw Daybreak that was on there, but I did not watch it. Is it pretty decent?
It's sort of the end of the world, and somehow only high school's kids survive. And it has a couple of surprise twists in there that you're like, oh, I didn't quite see that coming. And it's fairly it moves pretty quick.
Okay. Well, I like a good zombie movie, and I like a good musical. So this kind of
This
hit.
is actually a TV series.
It's
10
like
episodes.
yeah.
Yep.
Okay. I will have to check that out as well.
I watch anime, so that's all I do.
That's kind of zombie related sometimes.
Yeah, some of them.
I have my entire childhood on Disney Plus right now, so I'm just focused on that.
Yeah, right. Basically,
and
yes.
literally, I went straight to Gravity Falls again.
Oh, nice.
Like, I'm like, oh, I can watch this
Here's
again.
a question for Disney Plus: do they have the new Lion King on there?
Not yet. They have the original animated one, though.
and they eventually
that on
will.
Blu-ray,
Like
so.
Yeah.
the only stuff that isn't on there is stuff that's still temporarily somewhere else.
Licensed.
But eventually, that will all.
Okay.
Because a couple of the Marvel ones are missing. Like I think the newest Thor one.
All the stuff on Netflix still. And it's like when you click on that show or movie, it says, due to license agreements, this movie will be available on Disney Plus, and they give you a date.
So. And it's relatively inexpensive. Not that we're here plugging Disney Plus, but like you get a
Sponsor
lot
us,
of
Disney.
stuff for your $4. Right, exactly.
And you can bundle it with Hulu.
It worked. Right, exactly.
And ESPN Plus. Yeah.
It worked for BSB getting Squatty Potty to endorse them, so maybe this will
For
be our,
a whole
our
week.
Disney, our Disney Plus.
Disney Plus.
Right.
Send a few bucks this way. Send 1% of your
Yeah,
total gross
exactly.
product.
Exactly. Man, how sad would that be for Disney Plus to be stooping to our level of having us for a sponsor?
I would plug them hard if
yeah,
they gave it to
absolutely
me
would.
for free for the
sure.
rest of my life. I'd just be like, sure, I will talk about you guys everywhere
You
I
can
go.
find us on Disney Plus.
That would be amazing. All right. We had a deck tech to do here, gentlemen. And Max, why don't you start us off here? Tell us what we're looking at.
So Ken has a 2 CMC Thalia Guardian of Thraben deck.
Not just around 2 CMC.
Everything in the deck is 2 CMC.
Exactly.
Very unique. It's a great average then.
Yeah, it's pretty easy to figure out what the average CMC of the deck is.
So like normal, we always ask our favorite questions when we reach out for our deck list. So starting off with his meta, he plays with the staff at the shop that he used to work at, and it's a pretty casual meta. He also plays in the open EDH events on Friday nights, and they can vary wildly from utter jank decks to near CDH level power decks. Most of the guys he tries to play with on the regular basis run tightly tuned decks between the 6 and 8 power level. The goal of this deck is to show off some cool things with a weird theme, and he wins by making people go, wait, what did you just do?
You can respect that.
That makes sense. So some weaknesses for the deck. He says that the biggest problem with the deck right now is the stack/tax effects that he has sprinkled in the deck. He knows that he needs to slow everyone else down because of the limited card pool and the power level of the cards that he has. He gives a shout out to someone from CCO who, I don't like those guys over there in the Canadas.
He gives a shout out to Rocky, not Bullwinkle.
Oh, it is Rocky. Okay. Because this person loves the stacks and tax effects. He also wonders how he can be more interactive instead of using the taxing effects the board to death.
And then for budget, he says he has a very extensive collection, so there's a good chance he has the card he's looking for. But for this, we're going to say, what, $200 for any one card and a total budget of $1,000. So pretty much the sky's the limit.
I think that's every 2 CMC card in mono white. We could get him.
Yes, we probably would be okay there.
No, like all of them for $1,000.
Yeah,
Right.
like all of them.
He also was very complimentary in his notes, said a lot of very nice things to us
Yes,
that
he-
we won't all read here, but it was very nice to see. Thank you very
Heartwarming.
much.
Yes,
Absolutely.
thank you.
I'm
So-
over here deflating heads as we speak.
Right.
I mean, Chris actually got to meet Ken back in
He did.
Indianapolis or,
Yes, I did.
or Columbus.
Indianapolis.
Okay.
And he said Chris was super nice, and it was highlighted the trip to meet him, which is crazy because Chris is a huge jerk in real life. So you must have been on good behavior.
I had
He was babysitting.
My teammates were with me, and I had to watch the kids.
You were trying
and,
to put on a good show for the youth.
Yep. His wife was there, so
Oh,
you
sure,
got to
okay,
be
all
nice
right,
when
I hear
the
that.
women are around. So
I hear that.
no, I'm just a
what a
nice guy.
gentleman.
I can't believe you would even say that.
You are absolutely a teddy bear, Chris, without a doubt.
Don't tell Ursa.
I would know. That's literally. I think that was what my wife said the first time we went to dinner for your birthday.
Yep.
A few years back when we'd first met, and she's like, "Man, Chris is just like the nicest guy in the world." I was like, "He is the nicest guy. He's absolutely
I
a
try
sweetheart."
until you cross my buttons. I'm a Scorpio. Read up on Scorpios. You'll find out what happens.
We're both Scorpios.
All right, so we mentioned this deck has an average CMC of 2.0. Max, read Thalia to us here quick before we get started.
Thalia, Guardian of Thraben, is 1 generic mana and a white source for a legendary creature, human soldier. Base power and toughness 2/1. She has first strike, and non-creature spells cost 1 more to cast. So that's for everybody.
And she's seen play in Eternal formats, correct? Modern for a while. I'm not sure if she's still a modern card.
She still gets played in modern.
there?
Yeah.
Okay.
Human.
That's a 4 of in humans.
Okay. So that's a legit card in other formats. And she does see a good bit of play in Commander as well. The question he had here is the biggest problem with the deck is dealing with the stacks effects, and people tend to not like them. How can he be more interactive instead of stacking and taxing the board? Is there an answer for that? Because I couldn't come up with one.
You can just win.
So here's my answer. You're playing mono white. You've restricted yourself to cards that are exactly 2 CMC. no one gets to complain about anything you do. There's nothing you can do in mono white.
I will get behind you on that.
Yeah.
So if anyone ever complains, tell them to listen to this podcast. We've given you permission. There's nothing you can do at exactly 2 CMC deck in white that people should complain about. They can answer it. Or they better be able to answer it, or it's their own fault.
Well, not only that, but the stacks elements he has, it's 2 CMC. It's
Right.
not like you got Winter Orb
Right.
or Stasis
Right, that's true.
Or the other Thalia.
or the other. Yeah, like literally.
Although even then, I'd be like,
Winter
this
Orb
could
might be
this
on my
could
list.
be. Well, but even then, okay, if there's still no way to cheat around it. Winter Orb is an amazingly busted card if you're doing things with it, like tapping it with Urza or something when
Yep.
it's a mana rock, when you can get around it. There's nothing this deck would do to get around it anyway. So, like, I feel like even then people probably shouldn't be complaining.
I 100% agree with you. If you had told me this was a Teshar list,
That's different.
where
entirely.
the max
Yep.
CMC is 3, and then I'm like, all right.
Yep.
All right. Now we're just being that guy.
Yeah, in this list, there is no crying in baseball.
That is correct.
So,
Unless you rig a nice sign reading scheme from 4 years ago and almost win 2 World Series using it.
I guess, maybe.
Speaking of World Series, I heard there was some naughty things and 2 ladies got banned from the World Series.
That's just sad.
I have no idea what you're talking
You
about.
never heard about this?
No.
Okay, there was
No.
2 gals behind home plate who decided to flash the pitcher when he went to throw, and they got banned from the World Series.
Yep.
Well, I mean, hey.
And now they've moved to NFL. They've started going to NFL
Did
games.
they really?
Brr.
The worst part is that they're like models or something like that. So everyone's like, what's the big issue if they want to do something stupid? It's not like they're
We
some-
support all of that.
Yeah.
Well, since we're already on a tangent, there
I'm
was
sorry, I had to go
there's
off.
an old-timey baseball player. His guy's name was Rube Waddell.
Okay.
And the other team used to other team's fans used to bring puppies to the game because he would get distracted by puppies. This is like 100 years ago.
That
like,
is
back-
definitely my weakness
So
right
like they
there.
would bring a puppy, he'd be like, "Oh, puppies," and like get distracted, or spoons. He'd get distracted by shiny objects that like reflect spoons at him, and he would get distracted by spoons as well. This is a real person who played Major League Baseball in the turn of the century who would get distracted by. He would actually chase. This is insane. I'm serious. He chased fire engines like he was
What?
himself a dog.
I have to ask.
This is a dollop
I was
episode.
about to say,
There's
was this a dollop
You should listen to the dollop on Rube Waddell. It's insane and amazing.
Oh, wow.
So anyway,
Back to Magic the
back
Gathering.
to Magic the Gathering. Let's jump into lands first.
Yeah.
There's 36 lands here in this deck.
My
And
first thing, does that seem like too much? Is it just me?
it's not like in a crazy amount, but it's probably overly safe, maybe.
But when you
2
only need 2 of them.
CMC.
Right, that's true. That's true. You can. I mean, you're gonna want at some point like cast 2 spells at a turn.
I'm
but
fine with it being a 36 if there was more utility lands.
you can get away with more. Well, for example, Chris, what utility lands would you add to this deck?
Like a strip mine, scavenger ground, stuff like that does something. You're going to sack them off to do something. So you're not really cutting your land count too much. You can just consider them straight up. Their only purpose in this deck is to do this thing.
Sure. So right now on the deck, there's 28 planes. There's a Desert of the True, and that I might as well read because it doesn't see a ton of play. It enters battlefield tap. It is a desert, and it taps for white, and you can cycle it. So it's basically there as a cycling land.
Yep.
There's a Drifting Meadow, which is also a cycling land, and there's a third cycling land, Secluded Steep. There's a Myriad of Sky Ruin. There's a Karoo, which is one that bounces a land and taps for 1 and a colorless. There's a Field of Ruin as a land removal land, and there is a Maze of Ith, which is going to be your way to protect yourself, but it doesn't tap for mana. So that 36 land count,
It's really 35.
35-ish, because you kind of treat Maze as a spell. There's also Thawing Glacier, which gives them a way to ramp out a land. So that's the utility lands that are in the deck right now. So there is only 1 removal land in Field of Ruin. I would probably run a second one myself.
Whether it be strip mine, ghost quarter.
Right.
Tech Edge.
Yep.
What do you guys think of those cycling lands? I get them. I understand it's mono white.
I love cycling lands.
It's the most powerful mechanic in Magic.
I don't love them either. I tend to think you want to have a way to abuse. You want to have multiple things you can do with cycling land. In this case, it's just a land that can be ditched late in the game and early in the game it hits your tempo. I don't think they're bad necessarily, but I don't love
thought
them.
of bringing them in tapped. Really,
Here's what I would run instead of at least one of them, if not all of them, is I would be putting in a new land, Cryptic Caves, that taps for a colorless, but you can spend 1 to tap it to sack and draw a card if you control 5 or more lands. It's, first of all, in a mono white deck, you have plenty of white mana. There's 20-some artifacts in this deck, 18 artifacts. So you'll have no problem. Colorless mana is just not going to be an issue. You can have plenty of utility here. But it's always going to come and play untapped. And if you get to that point in the game where you, like with Cycling Land, you have to make the decision right then and there.
Yeah.
Whereas this one, you can just play it on turn 2, turn 8 rolls around, you're like, I'm just going to crack it and draw a card. Whereas Cycling Land, you have to decide, early on what you're going to do with it. So I would definitely use Cryptic Caves over one of those, if not all of them. I don't love Cycling
Unless the Cycling Lands are strictly there as card draw.
see,
Sure.
and we're gonna get into that later.
That's what I'm curious about, is maybe that's why, because as Dan brought up, maybe the land count is too high, so maybe he sees that too, and he's thinking that those lands, all they are card draw lands.
Yeah, that could be.
And you sort of mentioned this earlier. I don't think he's maybe not updated this list most recently for some of the things that have come out.
Yes.
Because there are some draw spells, or ways to draw cards in white, I should say,
Yep.
that he does not have in here that we could probably add and get him where he needs to be.
Yes. One land I do want to suggest is Castle Ardenvale. It enters the battlefield tapped unless you control the planes. It is from Throne of Eldraine. Add taps to add 1 white. For 2 colorless and double white, tap and create a 1/1 white human creature token.
So there's not much downside to it
No.
in this deck. It's usually going to come into play untapped. It has some utility.
And the downfall to this deck that I'm seeing is that 2 CMC late game, you're going to start overextending. Say
Sure.
you have 10 lands in play, you can drop 5 spells. Why not have an outlet to sink your mana into?
Sure.
Speaking of that, being 2MCC, and even though we're mono white, you're going to hear something that's completely abnormal for mono white is there's not a lot of board wipes.
No.
Which, because of that, I would say for the
Uh-huh.
most part, you're really limited what you can do for board wipes, for sure.
So add a blast zone.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a good call. Well, that's a really good call here. Yeah, gives you an option to kind of function as a board wipe later on if you need to. There is the Ratchet Bomb, which kind of does
Yep.
that function, but the other land I would consider would be Hall of Heliod's Generosity, because this is a deck with 15 enchantments in it. That's enough enchantments, I think, to take advantage of Hall.
Oh,
I would
The
agree.
card is just so much. It's so good.
Yeah. And if you don't use it, then you don't use it, and there's just not much downside to it.
Honestly, I think in a monocolored deck like this, even if you're running 5 enchantments, it'd be worth it.
I mean, I'm running it in my Sphinx deck, which has 8 enchantments in it. Now, granted, there's one is a Mystic Remora, one's Rhystic Study. There are things that get
all
blown
that
up.
stuff.
Yep.
True
Yep.
Conviction, which people want to get rid of when it comes down. But still, like, you don't need to have many for it to be good. People run Academy Ruins in decks without a ton of artifacts just because the artifacts are really impactful. Like the Hall, you can run it the same way.
Speaking of Academy Ruins, I think a Buried Ruin would be great in this deck.
Again, there's a ton of artifacts here.
Yeah, there's 18 artifacts. It's a way to get one of them back.
Sure.
And the beauty of this deck being 2 CMC, there's no white card in here that has. Well, there might be 1 double white pips, but
Yeah.
once you get 2 white sources out,
You're probably
you're pretty much good.
Yeah. And you could very easily run a dozen utility lands in this deck and probably not have a problem.
Yep.
I'm not saying you should definitely go that route, but I'm saying like you could run another 3 or 4 or 5 utility lands and be perfectly okay here.
I have a question on one, and this one I was really on the fence of because I feel like this deck wants to be a little aggressive, a little faster, like putting things out. But an Arch of Araska?
That's the 5 mana to draw card.
Yeah, after you've ascended.
After you have Ascend.
Again, I think there's not a lot of downside to it. I have it in my Jeru deck, and it's never hurt me. And there's also been plenty of times when I'm like, oh, I got mana to burn. I'm just going to use it and draw a card. So yeah, I think there's no downside to it. And it does fill that void. It's tough to draw cards in white. It's even tougher when you're limited to 2 CMC. So,
Yeah.
I'd look at that too. Anything else before we jump to artifacts?
I say let's move on.
All right, let's look over at the artifacts here in this list. 18 of them. Quite a few are mana rocks or things that fetch mana. You've got Armillary Sphere, Cold Steel Heart, Felwar Stone, Marble Diamond, Mind Stone, Star Compass, and Sword of the Animus that are all working to do ramp. And a lot of the rest are kind of tax effects or things that affect the board in some way. So what do you guys think of this list?
I would cut all the mana rocks.
You cut all the mana rocks?
Yep, all of them.
No.
Just gone.
No.
Gone.
I would keep some of the mana rocks. Actually, I would change out a lot. Anything that comes into play tapped, I would cut. And I would actually replace with things that come into play untapped. Because I think the only way you're going to win this is you got to get out in front of people.
I definitely... so he's limited. The problem there is at 2 CMC, your mana rock count is what you can run that's not... that doesn't come into play tapped is pretty limited, but you do have access to Arcane Signet is not in here.
Yep, that was my first one on
And
the list.
that comes out, and he's willing to run things that don't cost anything either, and I'd put Everflowing Chalice in the list.
For the alternate cost.
I have 2 more, actually, to add to that list. And one is Thought Vessel.
Thought Vessel will be good.
Granted, I don't think you'll ever use the...
Max hand size
No,
thing, probably
but
not.
it still comes into play untapped. And the other one I really liked is, and it's not a mana rock per se, but it's Pearl Medallion.
Oh yeah, make sure white spells. And that's only 2.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's only 2. So all your spells would come in. All those 1 and a white would now just be white.
I would much rather have Pearl Medallion or Chalice or Thought Vessel over Marble Diamond.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
the white mana is just probably not necessary in this deck, and it comes into play tapped. That will definitely smooth things out, I think.
I'm with Chris on this. I think the fact that everything in this deck costs 2, if you're going to keep any mana rocks, keep Mind Stone because it's just a draw spell.
Sure.
But I think you could cut every single one of these and replace them with bodies. The only way this deck is going to win is if you pump more bodies out onto the field.
It reminds me very similar to an elf deck,
Sure.
where you need to overload on the body base compared to the rest of it.
Well, and then in that argument, I could actually see that argument. Then the only one I would consider putting in its place is Pearl Medallion.
Yes.
Yeah.
reduce
That
the
lets you
CMC.
put out.
Yeah.
That and Mind Stone, and you should be fine.
Yep.
I don't know if I want to get rid of all of them, but of all the decks, this one definitely can get away with, running a couple mana rocks versus like a lot of times in a white deck, because white is so limited, you want to run more than usual. I don't think that's the case here, but I don't think there's a crazy amount necessarily either. So, any other artifacts you guys like? I do like Crooked Condemnation. It gives you some grave hate. I still would probably run Scavenger Grounds as a land, but I think that's solid. I like Ratchet Bomb.
I love Wretched Bomb.
That's always a good card. Solves problems. Anything else you guys want to? Smuggler's Copter.
Well, and seeing that's some card draw or card advantage, right? Well, let's expand on that.
Sure.
All right, let's add the latest and greatest Tome of Legends.
Yes.
All right.
Tome of Legends, absolutely. Tome of Legends has been really good. I've been running it in a deck, and I've had really good luck with it. Similarly, Endless Atlas.
It was
At
my
2
next
mana.
suggestion.
And if you're playing, I think if you're playing mono white or mono red, you should be running Endless Atlas. Just that's it.
Yep.
You should have it in that deck. They're good enough. At 2 mana, I would run both of them.
I like Tome of Legends.
Yeah.
I would even also consider maybe like a Rogue's Gloves.
Which one is that?
That's the whenever you do combat damage to a player, draw a card.
Okay.
It's an equipment. There's also the mask. I always forget the mask that does something
Mask
similar.
of Memory.
That is the
Draw
one.
2, discard 1.
Yep.
Yes.
Umezawa's Jit. Come on. You need Umezawa
I mean,
at 2 mana.
It's really good.
Yep.
Just use it's good in almost any situation.
Okay, so I'm Max from Commander Central, and I'm going to talk about being a scumbag right now.
Max got Southern all of a sudden.
Really?
Wow. That's an interesting take. Okay. Continue.
So, I have an Ultimate Win Con in a 2 CMC deck.
In mono white at 2
Yes.
CMC, I'm intrigued.
Painter Servant Grindstone.
Okay, sure, I
They
guess.
are both 2 CMC.
Sure. For sure.
Especially if you have a hard time closing out the games, this is a way to just go, blam, I win.
And
I am
again-
stuck at 2 CMC, so as you said earlier, people should not complain.
There's no crying in baseball. No, I don't want to lose to Painter Servant Grindstone if someone tutored it up in a
Mono blue deck.
or in like a
yeah,
tweaked
there
deck with a
will
bunch
be
of
no
stuff.
tutoring in this
Like,
deck.
wait,
for it.
like-
There's
you-
so many 2 CMC mono white tutors, right?
There's just like you just had to top deck both of those 2 cards and hope no one could respond and played them both, and then you get to win the game, and that seems perfectly okay to me.
Because I spent the whole time I was researching this deck and looking up stuff was what is
Two-card artifact combos.
what is a really good way of winning?
Sure.
And for some reason in my mind, I always thought Painter Servant was 3 CMC.
I actually
And
thought it was too.
I'm scrolling through artifacts. I'm like, Wait, painter servant's only 2? Oh, I know how to win.
Yeah, there's no way to tutor up either of those pieces. I guess you could run Inventor's Fair or something, but
Right.
like,
You could put Inventor's Fair
They
in
only
here.
get you one side of the piece.
right.
Hey,
Yeah,
maybe that's all you need
You
sometimes.
still need, right? But even then, I still wouldn't
So
complain
much
about
card
it.
draw in white too.
Right, right. I still would. Nobody better complain about this deck, for sure. I like that, Chris. That's a good catch. Any other artifacts here you want to talk about?
Let's see if there's anything left on. I had Dolmen Gate on here. Is that an artifact or a land?
Dolmen Gate is an artifact.
Yep.
Which,
Creatures take no combat damage.
Yep, I like that one. Protect your creatures.
I like that too. Is this deck carry? Yeah, I mean, that's its only win condition for the most part,
Yeah.
short of
Well,
the
and he's got a couple
Painter
buffs
Servant
later,
Grindstone. Yeah. Okay, that makes sense. Let's jump over to the enchantments. We mentioned that there was 15 enchantments here. And why don't you go over those for us here, Max?
Okay, so we have Angelic Renewal, Ashes of the Abhorrent, Blind Obedience, Crusade, Darksteel Mutation, Honor of the Pure, Journey to Nowhere, Mark of Asylum, Planar Collapse, Quarantine Field, Seal of Cleansing, Serenity, Spirit Bonds, Spirit of the Labyrinth, which is also a creature, and Suppression Field.
So, that is just a collection of useful enchantments. Like, there's no general theme there. Those are just things that do something because they cost 2 CMC, and you're kind of limited to what you can do in white at 2 CMC.
Right.
Anything that you dislike or would like to add to that list? From
I have
anybody?
a really good one that would combo well with Heliod's Hall of Generosity.
What's that?
Seal of Cleansing.
I thought that Seal of Cleansing is in the list already.
Is it?
Yeah, it is. But that's just one
Oh,
more.
yeah,
that's
that
just one more reason to run Hall Heal Generosity, though.
Well, then I will go to another really good one.
All right.
Rest in Peace.
Yes, I was surprised that was not in here because there isn't a ton of graveyard recursion. I mean, there's a few things, but there's not much that cares. It's going to absolutely hurt other people way more than it hurts you.
The other one that kind of came up, and there's a creature that goes along with this, and it would actually take quite a bit of tweaking to this deck, but you could play Stony Silence. It's
Yeah.
a tax effect, but you would have to do some serious tweaking to your artifacts overall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
If you really wanted to stick with the tax effects, that would definitely be a card to consider putting in.
I think that's probably a very meta-dependent call.
Sure.
I just want to turn off everyone's mana rocks.
You're evil. I got it.
I run Stony Silence in my Sigarda Enchantress deck.
I would just jam it on the field and be like, "Welcome to Modern. What's
Well,
up?"
and I've played it before and have people just go, "Oh, well, I'm done." Like, I mean, that's. But in this deck, I think you, as it stands right now, you absolutely hurt yourself.
Yes, you're going to be relying too much on the artifacts overall. But like I said, if you did a serious overhaul of the deck and went to different theme, then that could definitely be a option.
How about you, Max? Anything here for you?
I would, since all these creatures are kind of small, and you, like we've kind of said, you want to get out ahead of everybody, you want to be attacking. I think Brave the Sands should be in this deck. It gives all your creatures vigilance and allows them to block an additional creature. So you're turning these, these 2/2s, these 1/1s, at least they can block again on the next turn if you need it.
I liked Braves of Sands. That was one of the ones on my list here as well. One of the ones I was kind of curious about is Serenity. So Serenity, we mentioned it, but I'll read it here. It's a white and a colorless. At the beginning of your upkeep, destroy all artifacts and enchantments. They can't be regenerated. So as long as that's in play, it wipes out. I mean, people can't play artifacts or enchantments, or they can, but they lose them immediately. Well, I guess Serenity doesn't. It destroys itself. So it's an enchantment or artifact wipe at sorcery speed. But man, with all the artifacts and enchantments in this deck, I feel like you're really going to hit yourself.
Yeah.
Maybe it's one of those cards you're like, I only cast it when I absolutely have to. But I think it's going to be dead in your hand pretty
I
often.
think there are better protection spells.
Yeah, or just run a disenchant or something so you can deal with the one targeted thing versus risking everything.
Hey, look at that. My notes. Disenchant 4.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And maybe that's meta. Maybe there's a meta situation here where he's like, I just need to have a board wipe for artifacts and enchantments, and it's worth me losing my stuff. That's entirely possible. But I feel like there's just going to be a lot of times when you're going to top deck that and be like, I can't cast this because even if it solves my problem, it sets me so far back that I can't recover anyway. So at that point, I might as well just. I mean, I think at that point you just go aggressive versus hoping being defensive buys you time. I but that could be a meta call. So I like Quarantine Field. It's kind of an interesting way to get around the CMC restriction too and hit multiple things with it. That's a good call there. Mark of Asylum is a cool card. I wonder how often it's relevant, I guess. I ran it in my Archangel Avacyn deck when I played one because it had a lot of out-of-combat damage effect things in it. But here, this deck isn't doing it, so you're just basically hoping it soaks up damage from other people. And maybe that happens enough. I don't know.
Maybe.
What do you think?
I think it's a meta call. I mean, it protects you against from something like a Chandra's Ignition,
Sure,
but
yeah.
I think it's definitely a meta call.
Any other ones for anybody here?
Yeah, I got one.
All right.
Did we talk about Dawn of Hope yet? I wasn't paying attention.
Nope.
We didn't think
so.
We haven't really talked about that entire strategy that we kind of discussed off mic.
Okay. I was like, I know we talked about this earlier, but I want to make sure I didn't miss out on this one.
Chris was just thinking about Painter, Servant, and Grindstone and where that would go.
I was actually thinking about the other ones I was going to bring up. There's 7 more.
So what do you got?
Let's talk about Dawn of Hope. So for everyone who doesn't know, it's a 2-mana enchantment. Whenever you gain life, you may pay 2 colorless if you do draw a card. Now, for 3 colorless and 1 white, create a 1/1 white soldier creature token with lifelink.
So it makes something that will gain you life so you can draw the cards.
The big thing I saw about this deck, as I said earlier, is I want to find some way that you can put mana late game into something.
Yeah.
And this is something that would allow you to do that.
Max, you ran that in your Dromoka deck for a while.
I did for a while. It recently got the axe.
But that was a card that you ran in the deck and it was okay for a while in a 2-color deck that wasn't CM3 restricted and you still tried it out.
Right. Yeah, I like that card a lot. It plays into the making more bodies aspect.
Okay.
Along with that, you also have something like Luminarch Ascension.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Stealing my thunder again.
Yep. And the other 2-mana body making enchantment would be
Yeah.
Malicious Pride.
Which one is that?
Malicious Pride is 1 and a white for a tribal enchantment Kithkin. Whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, you may pay white. If you do, put a 1/1 white Kithkin soldier creature token into play, tapped and attacking.
So it makes you some more bodies and it's a mana sink.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah, I like that one as well.
I do have a suggestion, not so much for adding an enchantment, but possibly taking one away.
Okay.
I'm not a huge fan of Angelic Renewal. Is it just me? That's if any creatures are put into a graveyard from play, you may bury Angelic Renewal and put one of those creatures into play. So it saves one creature.
I think it's fine. I don't know if I would run it.
See, here's the thing. With the release of Modern Horizons, and it was it brought back? I believe is a double white, and is it instant?
Yes.
Yes.
It's
Instant. Return 2 creatures.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Or two permanents, isn't it?
2 target permanent cards in your graveyard that were put there this turn from the battlefield, return them to the battlefield tapped.
I just think that's a strict upgrade.
It functions a little bit differently than having this where you can tap out.
Yep.
But I don't know how often this deck is probably going all in enough where it taps out heavily either. I think I like that one as an upgrade as well. And it's a trick, which is pretty useful. Where like someone can see Angelic Renewal coming and maybe play around it, that they really can't.
Yep.
Okay, I'm on board with that. Well, let's jump over right now to take a look at...
Oh, you didn't want to hear my 7 other enchantments?
Did you have more?
He did. He
I
has a
have
whole
7
cycle
of
of
them.
them.
Do it.
The Rune of Protections.
What?
Wait,
The Rune of Protections.
seriously? You like the Rune of Protection like...
So there are 2 mana.
Okay.
And he's
Yep.
all about taxing people.
Sure.
So it's like you attack, I pay 1 white, and I prevent all damage from that one source.
So they're a variant on the Circle of Protections from the original Magic. I think
But
they were
they have
Urza's
cycling
block,
built into
and they
it.
have cycling, so you don't need them. You can pitch them.
So the inner Timmy now wants to build 3 CMC white with the Circle of Protection. Sure. That's something I did back in the original 1994 Magic.
Nice. And I think there was also a greater realm of preservation that worked for black or red that was in the Legends, I want to say.
I've always been looking for a deck somewhere that you could play it, and I'm like, 2 CMC? Oh, yes, I'm going to suggest
Rune of
these.
Protections. All right.
Because there are 7 of them. So you
Yeah.
have your 5 colors, artifacts, and lands.
There's a lands one, too, yeah.
We're digging deep there. When was the last time a land killed you? I guess it's possible.
I am
No,
about
should
to.
say.
In
Yeah,
Texas.
I won
Place.
against my buddy playing Golos because I was able to animate Fairy Conclave and beat him with it.
Well,
I've killed someone with a Celestial Colonnade before and with Brago.
years back, we had a guy in the store who had a mono red is it the Zhang Zhao the Tyrant
Yep.
deck, and somebody in the store put a Circle Protection Red
Just troll him.
and a Rune of Protection Red in their deck just for playing against his direct damage deck, and like had one of them out in deck, and he was mad about it. So that's almost worth doing at some point in time. Well, since we just mentioned an instant spell, let's take a look at the instants. Dan, why don't you tell us what we have for instant spells here?
So for instance, we have, it looks like just 3.
Yeah.
Aura Blast, Celestial Flare, and Immolating Glare.
Aura Blast, destroy target enchantment, but you draw a card. So that is not bad.
Not bad.
Celestial Flare, target player sacrifices an attacking or blocking creature. Makes sense to a degree. And Immolating Flare, destroy target attacking creature. So those are all okay.
My only issue is Celestial Flare.
Okay,
I don't like giving my opponents choices.
sure.
So I would definitely look for something to replace that. Let's see. I got some weird ones. I got Martyr's Cry.
What is that?
Hey, we're gonna have to look that one up. Can you pull that one up
We're
for me?
scrolling. Give me-
Scrolling. One second. Oh, I think I have it over here. Here it is. All white creatures are removed from the game.
Okay.
Players must draw 1 card for each white creature they control that is lost in this manner. It's a draw spell. It's sorcery.
That's actually, that's not bad.
Double white.
Interesting. I actually am thinking but I want that in my Jeru deck.
Make all your tokens and then get rid of them
Draw
all.
a bunch of cards, then board wipe.
Yeah.
No, you don't want that.
All right.
I want you to try it. I would like to see you try it, Dan.
Actually, that might be a fine card in that deck. I'm thinking about that. Okay. Anyway, sorry. I will test that out. That's an interesting one. One
Yep.
I liked there is Renounce the Guilds as an instant, where each player sacrifices a multicolor permanent. It's never going to hit you. It's instant speed. I played in my Zero deck, speaking of, and I've killed more than a couple of Dramokas with it before.
And Bragos.
And Bragos and stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, it does a surprising amount of work.
I have a couple combat tricks. The first being Rally of Wings. It's 1 and a white. Untap all creatures you control. Creatures you control with flying get +2/+2 until end of turn.
Oh, nice.
So there's not many flyers, but it is a combat trick if you need to start blocking stuff.
Speaking of combat tricks and just more jank, because I really went deep today.
Okay.
Abeyance.
Is that a silence kind of effect?
Yes, 1 and a white instant. Until end of turn, target player cannot play instants, interrupts, sorceries, or abilities requiring an activated cost. Draw a card.
I think that might even be on the reserved list. I think it's an old.
Yeah, it's selling
It's
for
not terribly expensive, I don't think.
$4
Yeah.
right now. But if you're gonna go all in with the Painter Servant, you might
Sure.
as well throw an Isoconceptor in with it, right?
Yes.
Right at that point, yeah. Dawn Charm.
Stop stealing my thunder.
I think Dawn Charm is universally useful enough, even in decks that aren't this restricted. I see Dawn Charm get played. I'd run Dawn Charm in this deck. All those modes are pretty relevant. Regenerate creatures or counter a spell that targets you, or fog effect. I am a fan of Dawn Charm, and I think this deck it would play perfectly fine in. Any more instants for anybody?
Nope.
Check through my list real quick. I didn't make the best notes and call out what was instant or not. I think that's it.
Well, how about sorcery? Since we had mentioned Martyr's Cry, any sorceries here from anybody?
Winds of Abandon.
Wings of Abandon, it was on my list as well.
Should we go through what's
I
in
think
the
it's like the
list?
best sorcery that we could put in here, to be honest with you, though.
Max, since you said it, tell us what we got here for sorceries.
There are 7 sorceries. Declaration in Stone, Gift of Estates, Martial Coup, Return to the Ranks, Revoke Existence, Tariff, and Temporary Truce.
So, Declaration in
read the next
Stone, we mentioned on our previous show as a creature removal spell. Gift of Estates, if an opponent controls more land than you, search your library for up to 3 plains cards. Reveal them, put them in your hand, and shuffle your library. It's worth noting here that he's got a couple things that are plains in terms of lands. Actually, he doesn't. I thought he had the
No Mistvale Plains.
Mistvale Plains in here, just a myriad. So that's, if he chose to add Mistvale Plains, that would get Mistvale Plains as well. It would also go get the food-producing land, or no, what's the one from
From Throne.
Throne of Eldraine that's also a plain. Anyway, if you want to run that one, it would get that as well. Marshall Coup is your one board wipe here, along with the Ratchet Bomb, because it's double X, so it counts as 2 CMC. Return to the ranks, bring stuff back from the graveyard. Revoke is a sorcery speed exile disenchant. Tariff is interesting. Each player chooses a creature with the highest converted mana cost he or she controls, then pays mana equal to that cost or sacrifices it. That's actually a legitimately interesting card.
I like it. It's very corner case.
Sure.
So you play it on your turn, force everybody to either tap out or sack their biggest thing.
That seems pretty... And they're probably already mostly tapped. I mean, like,
Yep.
the odds of them having 5 mana available are pretty slim.
2 mana to you is nothing.
Yeah. And your CMC's 2. Like, that's all you're going to be paying, so you're fine. I like that one. If it was instant speed, that would be a serious card.
Yep.
It's interesting as it is, but at instant, that would be a monster. Temporary Truce. Each player may draw up to 2 cards. For each card less than 2 any player draws, that player gains 3 life. So everyone just draws 2 cards.
It's symmetrical, but it's white and you want card draw.
But
I'm
at that
very
point,
torn on this
at
one.
that point, do you just run Howling Mine?
You know what? I would actually...
Well, I think you just run one of the other artifacts we said.
I have a different artifact for you.
Okay.
Key to the City.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a loot effect, and then you make something unblockable with it.
Sure. Yeah, I think if I was going to add one of the things we mentioned before, the artifacts that draw, that's where I would probably make room, is dropping Temporary Truce.
Yep.
And putting in one of the other draw artifacts that came up earlier, which would be, I've now forgotten the names of the ones I just talked about. Endless Atlas and Tome of Legends.
Yes.
Probably go in those slots. That's what they are. So, anything else that you guys want to say there?
Let's see. On my notes, I have Eye for an Eye, and I forgot what it does.
Eye for an Eye from Arabian Nights
Yep.
originally. Damage dealt to you is dealt to the creature that dealt it, I believe.
It's an instant. Next time a source of your choice would deal damage to you this turn, instead that source deals that much damage to you, and Eye for an Eye deals that much damage to that source's controller. So you still get hit.
So you still get hit, but it bounces it back. I think if I was going to run a Yefet, I would definitely probably choose Dawn Charm over that.
Yep.
But I've seen an Eye for an Eye cast in a Commander game before.
I think Board the Weatherlight might be good in this deck. It lets him dig down 5 cards for a historic card, so it can let him grab artifacts. And then they put them back on the bottom. They don't even go to the graveyard.
Yeah, and you'll probably hit one.
Yeah.
So it's a draw spell for 2, basically. That's not a bad call.
I mean, there's only 36 sorceries in mono white that have 2 CMC,
Yes.
so...
Anything from you, Chris?
Nope, I said the one.
All right. Last but not least, creatures.
There's 20 of them.
20 of them, they all cost 2 CMC. And technically there's 21 because you have Spirit of the Labyrinth over in the enchantment area. So technically there's 21. They're either value bodies or things that affect other players for the most part. Adorned Pouncer is just a double striker with Eternalize, so when it comes back, it'll be a 4/4 double striker. Aegis of the Gods gives you hexproof. Anafenza, Kintree Spirit, lets you put counters on creatures you control. Auriok Champion has black and red, and it gains use from life when a creature ETBs. Containment Priest, flash, and you exile a creature if it enters the battlefield and wasn't cast, so it's a way to stop somebody else from cheating something in or making a bunch of tokens, whatever. Aethersworn Canonist, each player who has cast a non-artifact spell this turn can't cast additional non-artifact spells. So in this deck where you have a ton of artifacts, it's going to slow you up way less than everybody else. Gold Mirror, it is just an mana dork for 2 mana that taps to make a white. Grand Abolisher in a gazillion EDH. That's $10 card now? Mm-hmm. What the heck? That's nuts.
It's only been printed like 3 times.
During your turn, your opponents can't cast spells, activate abilities of artifacts, creatures, or enchantments. It's never not useful.
Right.
Handwear Militia Captain, at the beginning of your upkeep, if you control 4 or more creatures, you transform it. And it transforms into a Westvale Cult Leader. Its power and toughness are equal to the number of creatures you control. And at the beginning of your end step, put a 1/1 black and white token into the battlefield. So it's just a way to generate some value there. Imposing Sovereign, creatures your opponent controls, ETB tapped. Knight of the White Orchid, lets you ramp up a land. Leon Arbiter, players can't search libraries without paying 2. Any player can pay that cost. Arrestos Explorer lets you basically tutor up lands if people control more lands than you when it ETBs. Precinct Captain, when it deals damage, you make a token. Selfless Spirit, sacrifice it to give yourself indestructible. Sarah Avenger is just a good value creature. It's a 3/3 flyer with vigilance, but you can't cast it on your first 3 turns. Suture Priest gains you life whenever a creature enters battlefield under an opponent's control. Syndic of Tithes has Extort. There is a True Believer here, which gives you Shroud as well, and a Wall of Omens. When it ETBs, it draws you a card, and it's an 0/4. The pickings are pretty slim in the 2-drop slot there. But there's a couple things I think we could add. Is there anything particular that you want to throw in here, Max, or take out?
I would like to add Remorseful Cleric. It's 1 and a white for a 2/1 spirit that with flying, but you can sacrifice it to exile all cards from target player's graveyard.
It was on his maybe board.
Oh, well, move that over.
In that same vein, because we said let's just do this stacks thing.
Sure.
Hushbringer.
Yeah, that was one I had as well. Because why not? At this
Right.
point, you're going again. People can't complain about a 2 CMC mono white deck. What do you got, Chris?
Kentucky Wars Wage. I'm on the artifact hate trip.
I mean, you like you said, if you want to drop all those mana rocks, like you said,
Yep.
Kentucky's War Wage makes them cost 1 additional upkeep.
Yep. Otherwise, you sacrifice it.
Yep.
I've got a real out there one.
All right.
Oracle in Vec.
Man, I
If you can pull
I
this
bet
one
you
up,
it's got shadow. I think all the NVEX have shadow.
It does not. It just comes. It's 1 and a white for a summon wizard. Tap target opponent chooses any number of creatures he or she controls. During that player's next turn, the chosen creatures attack if able, and other creatures can attack. At the beginning of the next turn's end step, destroy each other of the chosen creatures that didn't attack. Activate this ability only during your turn. Force somebody to attack.
Sure.
And if they don't attack with everything,
destroy the creatures.
it. It's a weird one.
Why not? You'll probably get swung at. I guess I could see that could see that burning you, but it might be worth trying.
Well, if you got some of those effects that prevent damage, or
Sure.
Dawn Charm,
There you
or
go.
whatever, or
And then they're
reflect
wide
some
open.
damage back.
One I had here was Phyrexian Revoker.
Oh, yes.
2 mana and just Pithing Needle, whatever the scariest thing out there is. It fits in line with what the deck is doing anyway. It's efficient.
And Phyrexian Revoker can name mana rocks.
It absolutely can.
It just cannot name lands.
Yep.
See, I think if you want to go completely rebuild this deck in a completely different direction, go more artifact-based, you could actually get Arcbound Ravager, Mirror Retriever, and do some crazy things that way.
I'm gonna name a scumbag card.
Of course you are.
Shocking.
What do you got here, Max?
Magus of the Balance.
Oh, yeah, which
It's
is...
on his maybe board, too.
I know, but move it over. Let's have some fun.
They should just unban balance, period. I mean, I
that
might
would
just have...
absolutely be busted.
I forgot to put the legal in Commander in my search, so I'm like, why is Balance showing up under?
But everyone's running Zern Orb all of a sudden. You're like, sacrifice my lands.
I do like the card Bounty Agent. It's a new card out of one of the new Ravnica sets. As Vigilance for 2/2 for 2, but you tap it and sacrifice it and destroy target legendary permanent. If it's an artifact, creature, or an enchantment.
So you can destroy a legendary...
Artifact, creature, and enchantment.
Okay.
Just not lands, essentially, right?
Yeah, it literally says target legendary permanent. That's an artifact, creature, enchantment. So I don't know why it doesn't just say target legendary artifact, creature, or enchantment.
Yeah, so it can't hit a few of the lands, but yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that'll solve a commander problem.
Yep. You'll have a removal stick on commander.
That's solid.
You could
I like
have, maybe a legendary artifacts out there
Sure.
causing you issues. I can't really think of any
Great
legendary
Henge.
enchantments.
Take care of the Great Henge.
Great Henge, get rid of that thing.
Take care of Growing Rights of Itlimoc before it flips, or the Search for Azcanta before it flips.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You guys are just bean.
We're monsters.
Welcome to Commander Central.
Max's influence on Chris and I.
He also has Tithe Taker in the maybe board, and I think that should just be in the deck as well.
I like Tithe Taker.
I have another new creature. This one's from Throne of Eldraine, called Charming Prince.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which one is that?
It's a 2/2 for 2 with 3 abilities when it ETBs. Either scry 2, gain 3 life, or exile another target creature you own, and then return to the battlefield at the beginning of the next end step.
I mean, there's a few things you could exile that would generate some decent
It's
value.
all about the scry.
Sure.
That's what that card's
But if
all
they happen to
about.
have Wall of Omens out, you flicker that and draw an extra card, and there's some value there.
White has a few creatures that have destroy target enchantment on them, like War Priest of Thune. That's 2 mana for 2/2 that destroys an enchantment on enter the battlefield.
And I would consider maybe even because he's got a couple of spells that are destroy target enchantment. Aura Blast is one. It does replace itself in drawing you a card, but I do wonder in this deck if you wouldn't be better off having the body on a War Priest of Thune
Yeah.
to help make it easier to win versus drawing the card. And then, like you said, it does give you an option to blink it too with a couple of things. So
Because he does have a couple of anthems in the enchantment section. He's
Yeah.
got 2, I believe, that give all white creatures +1/+1.
yeah, it's not a bad idea.
Not a bad idea.
I also noticed that I think there's only 5 or 6 non-humans in the deck. So you could contemplate unrunning a card like Cavalry Pegasus,
Yeah.
which whenever it attacks, each attacking human gains flying until end of turn.
Oh, sure. That's
spicy.
Yep.
yeah,
I like that.
Yeah, for sure. Nice catch, Chris. That's how we keep you around.
Well, that's the first thing I looked at was like, okay, white humans. Because I wanted to put,
I didn't even occur to
wanted
me
to put
that that's all-
Thalia's lieutenant in, but there's not quite enough for her to be valuable.
There's a gazillion
Right.
humans that never even occurred to me. Now it's a good catch.
And I just went and looked at that oracle. It's a human wizard.
yes,
Is it nice? Nice.
humans, Max? Get that deck
Where it's
started.
I'm
at.
working on it. I'm working on it.
Are we going to play it this weekend?
No, because it's not even. I have the morph on, and that's
It's all.
Uh-huh.
I know we can find you humans. We'll dig through your collection after.
Okay, I have
Oh, we
one
don't
other
want,
one.
we're never going to play if we do that.
If he wants to run like Jit and a couple of other equipments, you could put Stoneforge Mystic in here.
Yeah.
And the not so great, the one with
Yep,
her
the
now.
Bad Stoneforge Mystic.
The ability to just tutor
That's
him
what it's
up.
called. I think it's called Bad Stoneforge Mystic. I think
Yeah.
that's technically the name is.
Yep. Because I mean, if you get Jit out early and suited up on something and start beating, those counters become invaluable.
So at what point does that actually just shift you to changing the commander to SRAM?
Right.
And
That's
then
true.
just running Pure Steel Paladin, all those things, and just making this an artifact equipment deck.
Well, so here's the thing. Like I didn't want
That's
to.
true.
That would
I
get
thought-
him out of the stacks,
No,
by the
but
way.
Yep.
I thought about that. I like the fact that it's Thalia. That's a super weird thing. There's nothing specific here. But realistically, you could build a probably better version of this deck with SRAM as your captain, run the couple of tutors, and every sword.
Yep.
And you'll probably win more games just
But
because.
the swords are all 3 mana.
Well,
Well,
all
sure, the swords are all 3,
but
aren't
you
they?
run-
Yeah.
But there's plenty
Well,
of
there's enough
two,
two-mana
two,
swords,
two
but
there
mana.
are
Yeah.
a lot of them.
And then isn't there Cloudstone Key and the other one? Are those both 3? The Semblance Forge?
Someone's emblem is 3. Cloudstone's 3 too.
Okay, never mind. So I thought maybe you could reduce them.
But yeah, I agree. The draw off SRAM alone probably makes a pretty big difference.
Yep.
But I like this deck. I didn't want to suggest that change because it's such a weird, unique thing that you're never, ever going to see anyone else play.
Right.
I've
Yep.
seen SRAM decks before, and even making it a 2 CMC SRAM deck isn't probably going to change that much.
And everybody's going to assume you're playing eggs.
Right. Whereas like this is just a super unique thing that I really appreciate that it exists. So
I have another human
what's that?
called Hidden Dragon Slayer.
Out of Khan's block?
Yep. It is a 2 mana 2/1 with lifelink, but it has morph. So you megamorph it for 2 colorless and a white, and when it's flipped face up, destroy target creature with power 4 or greater and opponent controls.
Okay, nice.
I like it. I think you're right. Maybe go and slate the humans.
Yep.
Humans.
Because there's
Yeah,
a
we need
lot
that a little
of
bit.
value in that humans route.
Mm-hmm.
You can still keep your few key cards that are like your cats and stuff that are tutoring up the lands, or Leon and Arbiter, which is taxing your opponents and stuff like that. But then you could start sliding in like humans things, so you have more of a synergy overall between everything.
Then that allows you to run stuff like Path of Discovery
I was gonna say.
and the Artifact.
I think the artifact's 3.
Oh, it is. Yeah.
But Path, even being able to scry down, is fairly
Yep.
useful.
Especially in
this-
mono
in
white.
mono white, especially for sure.
I mean, we didn't mention Nykthos because everything has only 1 pip mainly in this deck. But
Yeah.
I mean,
Still, I
you
bet
can flood the board-
probably get okay value from Nykthos. That's a good point.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, even with that many artifacts and it being limited to 2 pips, I think you still would be okay with Nykthos here.
How did I miss Nykthos?
Yeah, I did
It's
too,
like one
actually.
of my favorite cards.
I know.
I didn't think it was good enough to go
Yeah,
in this
and
deck.
that's kind of how I feel like.
I don't think it would be amazing, but actually I think it would be fine. I would consider. I would try
but
it out.
literally, if you ramp out 2 additional mana in this game, it's literally
Yeah.
1 extra. It's 100% more spells.
Oh, that's now spiked up. That's
But
over
see-
$25, I think. Now.
Nykthos is also a card in
Really?
like mono white like this that it would
Pioneer.
force you to or extend.
yeah.
Because
Yes.
you have so much
yeah.
mana,
Yeah.
you're going to be pumping
Yeah.
out more stuff, and then
I never overextend. I don't know what you guys talking
You'll
about.
empty your hand out really easily in this deck too, and not be able to refill it.
I don't know what I would never overextend. I'm not a greedy player.
Not at all.
I would not just keep drawing cards and lose a game because of that. No, never.
Has never happened to any of us either.
Never. No, I may not have lost a important rotisserie draft for that very reason.
Max would have won that draft if he would have followed my rules. I had this
Well,
all
there
laid
was-
out for him perfectly. He would have crushed all opposition.
I didn't, and I
And his
regret
first
that.
pick, he changed, and I'm like, no, don't do that.
There was
And
some,
that's why I got benched.
there was some Canadian scumbaggery happening there as well.
I still sense just a little bit of bitterness. Sorry, we got way off topic. Sorry about that.
We all know what Grafdigger's Cage does, though.
Yep. Thanks a lot. I'm the one that gets yelled at every time we bring this up.
We all know what Graph Digger's Cage does. Not everybody knows what Graph Digger's Cage does. All right. Well, thank you very much for sharing this deck with us. And this is the probably the most unique deck I've seen in a
Very long time.
We had that weird Ayuli deck that was pretty colorless actually just last week. But this was cool.
Yeah.
Like I as a casual deck at 2 CMC for Thalia, that's fantastic. I don't know. I'm so that's what I love about Commander. I love that these things are out there. People are brewing this kind of a list. Someone on Twitter today just hit me up with a question like, "Would Glissa the Trader work okay for modular?" And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, man, that would work really great." I'm like, "Wow, okay." You're in the colors that have sack outlets. You're in the colors that can use Grave Pact effects if you want to. Oh, you have hardened scales and doubling season. I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. Like I love that about Commander when people find those weird niche things. And this is a cool, super niche thing. So thank you very much for sharing it with us. We'll be back next week with another show. Our podcast theme is Retro Future Dirty by Kevin MacLeod, licensed via Creative Commons. Our show is edited by Ken Peddle. You can find him on Twitter at LOAD3R. I am on Twitter at Dana Roach. Max is on Twitter at CMDRCentral_Max. Chris is on Twitter at WiseSquishy1. And we'd like to thank our guest, Dan Kraus. Dan, where can they find you on Twitter?
They can find me at DP Kraus Jr., all one word.
Excellent. All right, everyone, thank you very much for listening. We'll see you next week.